This is the Accredited Speaker panel, and I'm going to introduce all of our panelists. I'll ask the first question, then my co-panelist, Mary Torno, will introduce, actually do questions 2 and 3, and then I'll ask a question 4, and then we'll open it up to the panels. I also would like to recognize our dignitaries that are here. So I'll start with our past international president, Dr. Dilip Abayasekara. Wow, yay.
Yay, thank you.
Thank you. We have past district directors and governors. So I'd like to welcome Keith, our past district governor, Mary Torno, past district governor, and I love you. Are there any other past district governor directors? Perhaps division directors, area directors? Oh, I know Elizabeth is an area director in District 31. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, Earl, I think that you're waving, and Willie, you're waving. So we wanted to recognize you and thank you for your leadership. We need you, we appreciate you. And now I'm going to move into the introduction of our panelists. I will start with Dr. Dilip, and then I'll go to Joe Grondin, and then I'll go to Maureen Zappala. So our first panelist is Dr. Dilip Abayasekara. He's Distinguished Toastmaster, Accredited Speaker. He's an industrial scientist, trainer, speech coach, keynote speaker, college professor, and administrator, and is semi-retired. Dr. Dilip joined Toastmasters in 1986, and he came in second place in 1992 and was a finalist in 1993. In 1996, Dr. Dilip earned the Accredited Speaker designation, and in 2005-2006, served as our international president. Wow. He has 2 books. One book is The Path of the Genie, Your Journey to Your Heart's Desire, and his other book coming out, Public Speaking, Power, Passion, and Purpose. Oof. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Our other panelist is Joe Grondin. He's a distinguished Toastmaster and accredited speaker, is a retired educator, former principal, and a grandfather, a TEDx speaker, and Joe's been competing for 22 years. He was a 2-time finalist at the World Champion Public Speaking, 2010 and 2015. In 2017, he earned the Accredited Speaker designation, and he has 2 books, Living in Harmony with Our Children and Speak to Reach. Thank you for being on our panel, Joe. And Maureen Zappala is a twin to Sean, her brother. Grew up in New York, loved bridges, tunnels, and tall buildings, and saw the blueprints of the Twin Towers and wanted to become an engineer, and was a rocket scientist. Joined Toastmasters in 1997, competed in the semifinals of World Champion in 2009 and 2020. Earned the Accredited Speaker in 2024, and some of us got to see that live last year, and has several books. One book is Pushing Your Envelope, and another book is Great Speakers Are Not Born, They're Built. So thank you, thank you, thank you for our accredited speakers. Maybe we want to give some clappy clappies. Where's that noisemaker, Dr. Sunny? Bring it, bring it. Excellent. Welcome, Judy. Welcome, Lisa. Welcome, Katie. Glad you made it. Super excited to have you here. So I'll start off with the first question, and I will go around the room with Dr. Dilip, and then Joe, and then Maureen. So the first question, and we can put you on the spotlight for sure. Please share a little bit about yourself. Please welcome Dr. Dilip.
Yay. Thank you, Dr. Sherri.
Sorry.
A little bit about myself. I was always interested in public speaking. As a kid, I used to pore over great speeches. When I was a kid growing up in Sri Lanka, I memorized portions of JFK's inaugural speech, Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, Abraham Lincoln's inaugural address, all for the fun of it. I didn't realize that that was weird for a boy to be doing that. Only later did I realize, when I wrote that book uh, about discovering yourself, I realized that if you go back into your childhood, you'll discover what you naturally resonate with. No one ever told me that. I was just doing it for the sheer fun of it. When I became an industrial scientist, my first job was in St. Louis, Missouri. My wife knew that I had heard about Toastmasters and was interested in following up. And she said, "Look, the Sunday paper has this little ad. It said, South County Toastmasters. We meet." They gave the dates that they met, the times they met, and the location, and said, "All welcome." I said, "Oh, I got to check that out." I went, and it was love at first sight. I just immediately was captured by the program. And then that became my passionate hobby. And then when job changes took me around, I went from St. Louis to Allentown, Pennsylvania, and then from there to Newark, Delaware, all due to job changes. I always continued my Toastmaster membership. And along the way, right from my first club, I discovered that there was something called a World Championship of Public Speaking. So I was very interested in what that was. Those days, they made cassette tapes. So they didn't have CDs. That's before CDs, cassette tapes. I ordered cassette tapes of the World Championship, and I listened to them. And I was awed, because then I saw how much further I had to improve. And when I prepared my speeches, I made myself imagine I was competing at the World Championship. So I would not let myself write a mediocre speech. I kept pushing the envelope in my case, always trying to get to a point where I felt my speech might be competitive. And that was my introduction to the World Championship in 1988. I actually went to the World Championship to hear that. And then I was just awed. I thought, wow, I've got a long way to go. But that kept me focused on continuous improvement. And then when I made it to the World Championship, my hometown newspapers wrote about me. There were articles published about me, and soon people started calling me and asking me to come speak at their function, at that institution, at their school, at their church. And I was doing it for free. I didn't even think of professional speaking. But gradually it dawned on me that these people are calling me because there's something that obviously I can give. And so I began to think of professional speaking. And then when I got my first check, I remember I didn't want to even cash it. It was such a thrill. Looking at that, I thought, I got paid for doing something I love to do. And then I realized, oh, there is an art to this. How do I become better at it? I heard about the Accredited Speaker Program, which is designed for professional speakers. So that began my path towards becoming an accredited speaker. See, Toastmasters changed my life. All the things that I experienced along the way caused me to change my occupation from an industrial scientist to a trainer and a speech coach, a keynote speaker, and then a college professor, an administrator at a college. And then my final occupation, which really put my skills to use in a big way, I felt, was when I was a pastor. That was my last occupation before I retired. So I was speaking for more than a trophy at that point.
Mhm.
I was speaking because I felt that I was introducing people to a richer way of living. So that's a very quick snapshot of 39 years as a Toastmaster. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dilip. Appreciate that. And I also wanted to welcome my club growth director from District 31, Christian. Nice to have you here. Thanks for joining us. Wow. And our next guest panelist, I would like to call up Joe. And the question is still, please tell us about yourself. So let's welcome you up. I'll spotlight you.
First of all, thank you for the invite. It is such a joy for any speaker to be able to come and share, and to think that I'm worthy enough to share. A little bit about me. I am an introvert by nature. And I think there's a reason, and maybe some of you can relate. My mother told me that I was the prettiest baby in the world. She was quite proud that I was the prettiest baby in the world, and she lied. And it didn't get much better when I went to school. And when you go to school in a public system and you look different and you are different, you become a target for bullies. I live 5 minutes away from my school. It usually takes me 20 minutes to get there because I'm either getting roughed up by a bully or I'm taking the long way around trying to hide from the bullies. And on top of that, I wasn't the brightest crayon in the box. Closest I ever came to a good grade was a straight A student sitting right next to me. And I always wanted to hang out with, the cool kids, the ones that looked like they have it all together, but for some reason, they didn't want anything to do with this different kid. And I grew up introvert by nature, low self-confidence. Maybe a lot of you can relate to some of the things as we grow up. It takes away from our self-confidence. And as I sort of made a barrier around me and everybody else, I then realized and grew to the fact that being an introvert can be a gift. Being an introvert can be very knowledgeable. I'm very happy to sit in the corner and just listen and to learn. And it just so happened I met my soulmate at a very young age. I met her at the most romantic place imaginable. It was our local tavern, and we hit it off. Well, we hit it off when I saw her, blonde hair, blue eyes, beautiful woman, still is. And I looked at her, and my confidence level, my introvert, told me that you don't have a chance, Joe. Walk away. And I walked away until somebody pat me on the shoulder and said, I want you to meet someone, a friend of mine. And I said, sure. And as we're walking towards this woman, this blonde haired, blue eyed woman, and realizing who she wants me to meet, I realized you didn't have to exercise in order to sweat profusely. I was leaking all over. I'm talking armpits, chest, rolling down I couldn't put two words together, let alone be a speaker. I had to go to the washroom every 5 minutes to towel myself off and look at myself in the mirror and practice my vowels, A-E-I-O-U, A-E-I-O-U, and then come back out. We'd have a conversation. And I remember drumming up enough courage to ask her out on a date. And she said no. And I thought, well, it's been a pleasure knowing you. Have a great night. She said, well, I'm going to a hockey game. Would you like to come with me? And to this day, I would follow this woman anywhere. And this year we're celebrating 41 years of marriage. And I would marry the same woman in a heartbeat. And as I became a teacher, I think the reason why I became a teacher was because I wanted children to not go through what I went through. I wanted them to thrive with confidence. I wanted them to be confident with who they are. I used this blazer to demonstrate in my keynote addresses to children that we're all different. And one of my teachers taught me that our differences is what makes us special. And I still remember that. And that's over 50 years ago. It's amazing when an adult speaks to a child what they remember. And I think that's why I got into education. And then all of a sudden, there was this huge conference for all the teachers in our province, 6,000 teachers sitting in our Coliseum, listening to these keynote speakers. And to this day, I remember Crystal Kuykendall. And she told us a story that you could hear a pin drop in the midst of 6,000 people. And this woman changed the way I work with children. And I went home, and I looked at my wife and I said, honey, I like to be able to do that. Now here's this introverted fella who wouldn't say boo if his life depended on and wanted to be on stage to speak. I know it's a stretch. And my wife looked at me and said, join Toastmasters. I said, great. What's a Toastmaster? And it took me a while to go to that first meeting. And I remember a meeting for the first time. There was this elderly woman by the name of Norma Kelly. I still remember this. She smiles and she welcomes me in and she says, what's your name? And I said, it's Joe. She said, why did you come to Toastmasters? And I said, I want to be a professional inspirational speaker. She said, well, let me introduce you to my daughter. I have to admit, in my 65 years of life, that was the one and only time that a mother wanted to introduce me to their daughter. I was quite honored, and it was Shirley Kelly. And you may remember her or not. It's the past Shirley Kelly. And she said, what do you want? Why are you here? And I said, I want to be a professional speaker. And this is what I think Toastmasters is all about. She took me under her wings. She told me about the World Championship of Public Speaking. She mentored me and didn't expect anything in return. And I look at all the faces here today, and isn't that what we do as Toastmasters? We give, expecting nothing in return. And because of Shirley, and because of her looking at me in the eyes and saying, you could be the world champion of public speaking. And that was the start of my journey. Now, I've been at it for now 22 years. I would consider myself a slow learner, but I can honestly say it took Jock Elliott 32 years, so I'm not quite there yet. But it's been a journey that I have learned so much about being a speaker, about me as a person. I think there's more to it than the World Championship of Public Speaking that's more important than the trophy. We learn about ourselves, and we learn about how we could become good speakers and good communicators. And as Dilip alluded to, I looked at all the videos of past world champions, and Dilip, I have to tell you, mine were CDs. Yours may have been cassettes, but mine were CDs, and I still have them. I can't play them, but I still have them. And it's interesting enough to watch these world champions in action. And you know what? I looked at them, and at first I thought, gosh, I want to be just like that. I want to be just like that. I want to be just like that. And it didn't work. Because as I alluded to, we're all different. To find our different. And we walk on stage, the most important element of the World Championship of Public Speaking is to be who we are. And if we can do that, whether it's the World Championship or not, we will connect with any audience. Back to you, Sherri.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That was wonderful to hear. Just a quick announcement. I wanted to mention that next month we have our 2024 World Champion of Public Speaking, Luisa Montalvo, coming back with 18 tips to a winning speech. And then in May, we have Mark Brown, World Champion Public Speaking. And then in June, we have Craig Valentine, World Champion Public Speaking. So we are pretty blessed to have these guest speakers each month, and we encourage you to keep coming to our meetings and even become members. And now I'm going to invite our next panelist up to please share about yourself. Where is my Maureen? There you are. I'm going to spotlight you. So let's welcome Maureen to the lectern.
Lectern. Oh no, I missed it. Ha ha ha. See what I did? Okay, a little bit about myself. You said quite a bit in my introduction. I grew up in New York City. Sorry, I was born and raised in the heart of New York, and I live in Las Vegas now. But the journey from there to here is colorful and delightful and joyous and wonderful. I am a former NASA propulsion engineer, aka rocket scientist. Excuse me. And I was at NASA for about 14, maybe 15 years. And then I left. They were downsizing the government, and I just felt like it was just time to move on to something different. At the time, I had not yet, I was married, but I did not yet have kids. Kids came soon. But between leaving NASA and having kids, I gave a presentation to a group of teenagers at a church, big church. So it was a big group of teenagers. And you know, teenagers, tough audience, right? Now I had been teaching junior high girls Sunday school class for quite a while. So this was my tribe. So at the end of this presentation, a woman, one of the moms, came up to me and said, "Wow, Maureen, I really liked your presentation. Have you ever heard of Toastmasters?" Now, in hindsight, I now know that if you're a Toastmaster and you say that to someone who's not a Toastmaster, it's usually code language for, "Oh, girl, you need help, and we are here to help you." Because I was pretty awful. When I was working at NASA, that was one of the things that my boss told me not too infrequently. "Maureen, you're a terrible presenter," because I was just so like, all over the place. So anyway, I had not heard of Toastmasters, so I went on a hunt to find it and found a club, visited probably 3 or 4 clubs, landed in a club that truly was a fit for me. It was just a great environment. I joined, dove into the back then it was the old what was it, the ACB and the AT. I don't remember what they were called. It was even before, way before Pathways, 2 levels, 2 generations before Pathways. But dove into the project, got my first 10 speeches done in the first year. So I was just hustling and moving. In fact, I entered a contest about maybe 6 weeks after I joined. I didn't know what it was table topics, which, you know, there's not a lot, very low barrier to entry there. I didn't know what I was doing. And apparently the judges didn't either because I won. I was shocked. Now, I'm kidding. Judges know what they're doing most times, but it put me on this journey, this path to really love competing in contests. And I competed, oh my gosh, I don't know how many contests over the years I've competed in, dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens. Made it to the finals in what I made it to my district in 2008, I believe, 2007 or 2008. I don't remember exactly which year. Not knowing anything beyond what was, you know, that there was anything beyond district. I was just like, this is so much fun. I'm in a contest. I get to wear a cool suit. This is awesome. And I didn't win that district contest. And then later on in that conference, I learned that the next level was actually going to be in Canada, I think Toronto, because that was the district that I was in at the time, or the region I was in. And I remember thinking, phew, glad I did not win, because I don't even have a passport. Well, I grew into my knowledge and appreciation of the contest season over the next couple of years. So I was in the 2009 finals, which was life-changing. I was seriously, I was just so glad to be there. I mean, you think about it. You're in the top, I think at the time it was nine or 10. I remember how many contestants. You're in the top 9 or top 10 out of what, 30,000? I did not place. Who cares? I didn't care. I was just thrilled to be there. So it was a joy and a lot of fun. At that convention, at the 2009 convention, I had met Mark Brown, the 1995 world champion, and he spoke something to me. He doesn't even remember this, but I remember it like it was yesterday. He said, "You have a message and you have presence. You need to take this outside of Toastmasters." And I was just like, "Oh gosh, this is so much fun." And then later on, I thought, I wonder what he means. Well, he meant to go get paid as a professional. So I started to build my skills and my business acumen. I joined the National Speakers Association. You know, Toastmasters teaches you how to speak. The NSA teaches you how to make money when you speak. Two completely different skill sets. So between NSA and Toastmasters, went on this journey to become a paid professional speaker. And I didn't even know about the accredited speaker program until, I don't know, a couple of years later. And I never made the accredited speaker my goal. I made becoming a paid professional speaker my goal. And then I looked and I thought, oh, look, I qualify for accredited speaker. Let's do that. So it was kind of a fun journey. I think the hardest part of the journey was filling out the paperwork for the accredited speaker. And not because it was tedious, it's because it was all online and my computer was not cooperating. And I was like hitting a deadline. I'm like, if I don't get this done by midnight, I can't do this. And I was fighting with the computer. Hangeth thou in there, oh baby. If you want something, keep going for it. Just keep pressing forward, keep digging in, keep lunging forward. So that's been my Toastmaster journey, and it's been a joy and a delight. Toastmasters changed my life too. I'm not ashamed to admit it, happy to say it, and I recommend it to everyone. Even regardless if you want to compete or if you want to give presentations, it just helps you to think on your feet, to engage even in conversation. You meet some of the most fascinating people. My best friends have come from Toastmasters. Doesn't get any better than that. Thanks.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Maureen. Amazing. Here's some rockets for you. I wanted to welcome our area director, Robert Tinsley, as well as past region advisor, Charles Gates. Thank you for joining us, as well as other guests that are here tonight. And now I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, amazing past district governor, Mary Torno, who's DTM 6 times. And she's just fabulous. If you ask Mary to do anything, she does it, and she does it really well. So I'd like to welcome my co-panels. She will be asking question 2 and question 3, and then she will turn it back to me for question 4. And if the folks that are the panelists, if they could just say Mary when you're done, so that she knows to turn it to the next one. So let's welcome Mary. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Sherri. Thank you, stupendous, your marvelous introductions. You just erased all my questions, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to ask them anyway, because I want you to zero in on some of those introduction remarks you made and specifically answer my questions to the best of your ability, streamlining them. Then when you finish, Dr. Dilip, you say Mary, as you heard her instruct you. Remember, there's an audience from around the world, and they're waiting to hear some more from you. Our shining diamond, Dr. Dilip. Yes, you did make some remarks, but now zero down. What made you interested in becoming a world champion of public speaking on stage, and how does that process, that experience, want you to earn the accredited speaker title? Dr. Dilip.
Thank you, Mary. I want to introduce a concept that I didn't emphasize when I introduced myself earlier. That is the role of mentors in my life. In 1987, the year after I joined, I decided to compete in the International Speech Contest. But I didn't really know the full range, just like Maureen mentioned. You start competing, but you don't really know where you're headed. And I was at an area contest, won my first area contest, and this lady I had never met before came forward. Remember, I had been a Toastmaster for only a few months, maybe 7 months at that point. And she said, Dilip, I heard you speak. I looked at her and I saw this badge. It was a lovely badge which said ATM. Those days, that meant Advanced Toastmaster. So for me, it meant an advanced Toastmaster had noticed this neophyte in public speaking, and she chose to spend some time with me. I was honored. She said, Dilip, I heard you speak. I believe you have the talent it takes to get to the World Championship of Public Speaking. I said, tell me more. What is the World Championship? So she described the various levels that you go through, club and area, division, district, regional, and then the World Championship. How you speak to larger and larger audiences. You build greater skills as you go through this process. She said, if you stay with it, I believe you will be on the World Championship stage one day. And I could tell that she meant it. And after that, this dear lady, Kelly Weber is her name, Kelly kept reminding me every time she saw me. She was not in my area, but every time we bumped into each other at a conference or at a speech contest, she would remind me. So she planted that idea that I had what it takes. But because of Kelly, I also decided to investigate. As I mentioned earlier, I bought audio tapes, those days cassette tapes. And then later, when they switched to videotapes, I bought videotapes to study these speakers. And I became enraptured by the idea of speaking to large audiences and giving them value, making a difference in people's lives. I knew that I would speak not just for myself, but that I had to have a message that made a difference in the lives of my listeners. So going into this so deeply made me understand the power of public speaking to touch hearts and minds, to change lives. And for me, there could be no better compliment than someone to come up and say, because I heard you today, even though you didn't win first place, because I heard you today, you have made a difference in my life. So forward from that, from the time that Kelly Weber talked to me to I'm in District 46 now, I'm visiting as a Toastmaster, and I was invited because I had won various trophies for speaking. They invited me to be the keynote speaker in District 46, New York City. And this was one of the turning points in my life. There were people waiting to talk to me after my speech. Joe and Maureen, you know this. You give a keynote speech and then people want a little bit of you. And we love to do that. We love it. But while I was surrounded by these people asking me questions, wanting more information from me, I noticed a couple of elderly people, a man and woman, who were trying to get to me, but they were blocked by these young, energetic Toastmasters. So I made it a point in my head to say, I got to talk with those folks before I leave. I did get a chance to talk to them, but not before they passed a little piece of paper to me. I opened the piece of paper and it said, your message was truly empowering to us. We would like our son to hear what you said. Would you please send us a copy of your message? So when I did talk with them, they said their son had lost his will to succeed in life. He was drifting in life. And when they heard me speak, they felt that might help their son. And I remember driving back from New York, I was living in Delaware at the time, to Delaware, several hours. I reached into my pocket and pulled out that piece of paper and looked at it again. And I thought, this is better than a paycheck. This means that I can make an impact and make a difference for people. What I'm doing is not a job. What I'm doing is giving hope to people. I remember that realization. And that just made all the difference for me. This was before I became an accredited speaker, but it drove me to become better and better at what I was doing, because it made me think that this is not for myself. Yes, it is for myself, but it is more than that. It's my way of making a difference in this world. Then sometime later, I heard someone say that what you do for others is the rent you pay for the space you occupy in this world. What you do for others is the rent you pay for the space you occupy in this world. And I thought, yes, I want to feel like I'm making a difference. And God has given me this innate ability and desire to become so good that people will say, you made a difference for my life. And then I found that the Accredited Speaker Program is designed for people who have subject matter expertise and professional level speaking skills. Where those two come together, then you are an accredited speaker. So I had to find out how to do that. So again, going back to mentors, I looked for mentors. The first mentor I had was Bob Barnhill, past international president. He and his wife Jana both became accredited speakers. Bob had got his accredited speaker designation at that time. Then another person was in my district. He was the first person to become an accredited speaker. So he mentored me too. I remember him telling me, send me your, again, those days it was cassette tape. Send me your cassette tape before you submit it to World Headquarters. I'll tell you whether it's right or wrong. I did. And fortunately, he was honest with me. He said, that's a good speech. You're speaking to inform, but Dilip, you're at your best when you're inspiring people. I've heard you. That's what they need to hear, what the judges need to hear. So I said, okay, Bill. Bill Ecker was his name. I said, okay, Bill, I won't submit that. I'll wait till I get an opportunity to give an inspirational keynote. I'm glad I waited because that time came and I had a professional videographer come and videograph me. And those days, all that was required was an audio of your speech. So I told him to take the audio out of that videotape, put it on a cassette. I sent that to World Headquarters, and that's the one that got me approved to go to the second level. So what I'm saying is that mentors played a vital role in my life. And look around your club. There are people there who can mentor you. Look around your district. There are people who can mentor you. Ask yourself, who can help me? And ask them. Before I got to the World Championship finals, I had been asking people who had never even won a district contest. So if you ask the wrong people, you can't get the help you can get. I started asking world champions and professional speakers to help me become better. That made the difference. Choose your mentors wisely and make sure they know more than you know. That they have wisdom, not only knowledge, but they have wisdom to encourage you and pick you up when you fail. So I was truly blessed to have these people come into my life. Another great mentor for me was past international president Ted Wood. Ted Wood heard me speak at the District 18 contest finals. I won the contest. While other people were congratulating me and making me feel good, Ted Wood came to me and said, Dilip, if you really want to win at the highest level, there's a number of things you'll have to change. If you want to find out, give me a call. He turned on his heels and left. And I was left with my mouth open. I thought, wow, was I given a dressing down or what? But fortunately, I was humble enough to think, Ted Wood has been chief judge at the World Championship. He's just offered me an opportunity to improve. So I swallowed my pride. I thought, if he can teach me something, I want to learn it. The next day, I telephoned Ted Wood, and Ted became one of my mentors and guided me. To that time, I won second place at the World Championship. So the world is full of people who are willing to help you. Look for them, appreciate them, thank them, and live up to the best. And again, I want to close with this, that sometimes you will get advice that you think, well, that person doesn't really know enough to give me advice. He's never won at such a high level. But don't be in such a haste to dismiss that. I remember in District 18, I had won, second place, and then again the next year I was competing. But one of my friends in my home club told me that when I was preparing for the regional, which is the same as the semifinals now, he said, Dilip, you spoke past the conclusion. You had sold me and then you kept on talking. I said, oh, so where did I sell you? Where were you sold so much that it didn't matter if I didn't say another word? He told me. And I thought about it. I watched the videotape. And I said, yeah, I think he's right. I made that my ending, and that's how I won the regional, the semifinals, that took me to the World Championship again. So there are people you may not recognize as having the expertise, but listen to what they say. Everyone can help you improve. So that's my takeaway from that, and I share that with you, asking you to not only look for mentors, but be ready to be mentored from unexpected sources. The world is full of riches that people are willing to give you. Thank you, Mary. That's my story.
What a mountaintop experience that makes you the shining diamond. Thank you for sharing. And now I know why I sang with you Amazing Grace in that first song fest you and I did together.
Yes.
I will now ask our second panelist the same question. Even though you've given us this great introduction and you have this smile that almost reminded me of Dr. Dilip until I embarrassed myself and found out that you're not Dr. Dilip. What made you interested in becoming a world champion speaker on stage, and how did that help you become an accredited speaker? Now, I realize you did some of this answering in your introduction, but now highlight it, please.
Absolutely. And like I said before, if you ever mistakenly call me Dilip, it's an honor, and I will accept that. I will even get the name tag and put it on that I am the gem Dilip, and he sure is. And Dilip, you covered a lot of things that I was going to allude to. Why did I get interested in the World Championship of Public Speaking? It was by accident, because as mentioned before, Shirley Kelly was my first mentor. I couldn't have asked for a better mentor at that time. And when she mentioned there was the World Championship of Public Speaking, I grew up playing sports. I'm very competitive. And I think many of you can relate, but I'm competitive. I love competition, good, healthy competition. And when she mentioned World Championship, I thought, okay, I'm in, without realizing the ins and outs of the World Championships. And I said, where do I start? She said, well, let's get you on a table topic first. I said, sure. Quite honestly, I didn't know what table topics was all about, but I'm a yes person and I want to please people. And the table topics master came out to me, says, would you like to do a table topics? I said, absolutely. And when I started to digest the meeting and realize what table topics was, I started to get very nervous. And just before he asked me the question, I know runners, they talk about this second wind. My second wind that day was hyperventilation. And again, I started sweating profusely. I stand up, I take a deep breath, I deliver a 5-word table topic. I sit down in a pool of sweat and I let that breath out. Now, I have to tell you, nobody came up to me and said, you could be the world champion of public speaking. Nope. Shirley came up to me afterwards and she said, "Great job, Joe." And I said, "Shirley, were you in the same room? I spoke 5 words. 3 of them were filler words." And she looked at me with all seriousness. She says, "I'm congratulating you for having the courage to stand up and deliver your first table topic. And that is the start." She said, I see something in you. I know it's a remnant. I'm always reminded of Dana Jayo's World Championship of Public Speaking, and I will remember that for the rest of my life. And to just, I could have walked out of that room deflated. World Championship, forget it, not interested. But Shirley brought me to a level that before I left that room, I was on cloud 9. I was on cloud 9 because I had the courage to do a table topics and that somebody believed in me. It takes a village to raise a speaker. It truly does. There's one speaker on stage, but there's a team of people that are supporting you. And you're sort of standing on the shoulders of giants. You are. You're standing on the shoulders of people who truly want to give and to be able to help you on that journey to the World Championships. And I lost many contests along the way. And it was a learning experience for me. And how the World Championship helped me with the Accredited Speaker Program, it got me used to the big stage. To be able to get on the stage and stand in front of hundreds or thousands of people and to be able to deliver a speech that's powerful, that connects. And that helped me prepare for the accredited speaker. I have to admit, the first time I applied for the accredited speaker program, I failed. I didn't get through to level 2. And I remember giving Dilip a call and getting advice on, okay, what do I need? And it's that this, Dilip already alluded to the mentorship that happens within Toastmasters. It takes a village to raise a speaker. And Dilip gave me a piece of advice that allowed me to finally get accepted to level 2.
Toastmasters Zoom meeting. In a Toastmasters Zoom meeting.
Am I in the
Give
wrong
us a
meeting?
second, Joe.
Okay.
Dr. Sherri, what's happening?
I just muted someone. It sounded like someone was talking to someone at home, so I just muted. Sorry for that.
Okay,
for that interruption.
Go ahead.
That
The
could have
shining
been a
star
lot.
can proceed. Go ahead, Joe.
That could have been a lot worse.
So sorry for the interruption.
Hey, look, it's no problem at all. And that can allude to the learning experience that happens when you speak. The unexpected will happen. And to be a speaker and a communicator, a keynote speaker, these things will happen. And as a speaker, we adjust. We adjust because we're taught through mentorship. We're taught that expect the unexpected. When it happens, it doesn't cause a major disruption. Totally understand things do happen. So that did prepare me for the accredited speaker program, got to level 2. Again, you get to, and you're nervous before you walk on stage. And I always remember an international president, and I believe his name was Mike Smith. And he knew I was nervous, walking up and down the hallway. He said, "You must be, getting ready for the accredited speaker." I said, "Yes." And he said, "Speak from your heart and you will always win." And I will never forget that, because if we always remember to speak from our heart, those preparations leading up to the accredited speaker and the World Championship, I would have to say the World Championship taught me how to develop a strong message with strong content. Before I took this journey to the World Championship, I had a message, I had a speech, didn't have strong content, didn't have a strong message, and the structure of the speech. So when I got on the stage for the accredited speaker program, I was ready. because the World Championship of Public Speaking taught me the tricks and trades of communicating. And when I walked on stage, I felt like I was ready because of the mentorship that I received. It takes a team to raise a speaker. And I thank the mentors in my life who have helped me get to this point. Back to you, Mary.
You are truly a shining, shining star. And when I look up at the stars tonight, I'm going to think of all those comments you've made, all those seeds you've planted, and those stars will even sparkle brighter. I will now proceed to panelist number 3, who is our shining pearl. You didn't realize when I was in the audience and watched the atmosphere change and the brightness in your face, and I thought, oh, she just was out at the ocean and she unveiled this shining pearl. Let's ask our third panelist the same question, even though you've covered basics in the introduction, but I want the highlights now. What made you have an interest and a desire to come on stage and be a world champion of public speaking? And how did that process equip you for being an accredited speaker? Our newest accredited speaker, let's welcome panelist Maureen.
Thank you. Gosh, that was a kind thing to say about me being a pearl. I don't know, credit it to a very hefty dental bill. I don't know, braces as an adult. I like Dilip, Joe, I'm competitive. And when I saw them giving out shiny things and trophies, I wanted in. So it was an easy decision for me to jump into contests. But truly, I thought that for me to win a contest, because I won a lot of them at lower levels, I really thought that all I needed was a funny title, a couple of jokes, and a really cool suit. Because if I had all 3 of those going, I won contests up until I didn't, up until district. And then I realized, oh, wait, there's more to this. And, I also got my hands on some of those older videos and DVDs of past contests at the finals level, completely different skill level. I mean, off the charts skill level. I was mesmerized, I was fascinated, and I dove in to learn techniques. I got coached by Darren LaCroix and Rory Vaden, who was the 2nd place winner and 3rd place winner. And I don't remember exactly what years, 2007 or 2008 or so. We still stay in touch. He was just here in Vegas not too long ago, and we're still friends. But I got coached by some really great, and Jim Key, coached by some really great speakers. And my goal wasn't to win. My goal was to get better. My goal was to be as mesmerizing on a video like all those other contestants were, all those other finalists were. So, goal met. It transformed my skills. That whole process, that summer of 2009, from when I won the regionals, just going way back when the regionals were the real regionals, not the quarterfinal / semifinal things. It was different structure. And I think I won the regional in June, and the convention wasn't until August, like it is now. So in those, 13 weeks, boy, I worked hard. I worked harder than I ever thought I could. I learned something about myself, that I can work hard if I have a goal and a dream and a vision and a target date and enough, like you said, the mentors and the people to help around you. Boy, I could work hard. And I loved the process. There's a thing in psychology called flow, where you get so absorbed in the process, and the work that you're doing is neither too easy to be boring nor too hard to be frustrating. It's just kind of on the edge of both of those levels, where it's just challenging enough to where you grow, and familiar enough where you can pick yourself up when things start to go off the rails. And time stops. You're not even aware of it. So I was in flow that whole summer. It was great and glorious. I dragged my kids to the pool, to the community pool, and I dragged my notebook and a video or a voice recorder, and I would write and practice my speeches at the pool. Yeah, I had issues. So, but my goal was to get better, and it did. It transformed my speaking. How that made me want to become a professional, as I mentioned, it was Mark Brown who inspired me to pursue being a professional. I learned quickly that professional speaking, keynote speaking specifically, which is what I'm paid to do now. I'm a fee-based keynote speaker. You're up there on stage, sometimes talking to hundreds, sometimes thousands, sometimes a small group, sometimes it's virtual. You're talking around the country or around the world. You're speaking for me, in my case, 60 minutes. That's a little different from a 5 to 7 minute speech. So I had to figure out content. I had to grow my content base. I had to chunk it out so that it flowed, that it was easy to absorb. I had to anchor it with stories and exercises and visuals. I had to really and use the stage. Those are the things that we learn when we compete. But it's a completely different animal because it's not as choreographed and scripted and performance based. You have to deliver value. You have to not just inspire people. For the most part, at the fee level that I'm at, corporations and associations are paying me quite a bit of money, not just to have their people walk out and, feel like, oh, that was a great speech. They need to see change. They want to change to their bottom line. They want to solve a business problem. They want to make an impact in their market. So the message that I have has to answer to that. It has to speak to that. So how do I bring my expertise, my experience, and my skills to answer their problem and solve their business problem? Completely different from a contest speech, whereas most of them are very inspirational, motivational, and people, you want them to think, do, and feel differently, but a lot of it is thinking and feeling, sometimes a little bit of doing. But on a keynote, it's not just think, do, and feel, it's make their business make more money. Or make people start getting along, or gives a bigger market share. So I had to learn those types of skills. And in the process of doing that and learning the marketing that, there's a lot of great speakers out there that are broke because they don't know how to market themselves as speakers. And on the flip side, there's a lot of really, really successful professional speakers that really are not very good on stage. So you really need to bring the package of great presentation skills and business/marketing knowledge to really, really do it well. So that's what I did probably over the last, let's see, I've been a pro speaker now for probably 10, 12 years. I've lost track of time. And it was while I was growing my business. That's when I was like, oh, look, I think I could qualify for accredited speaker. I don't think that it wasn't a goal for me to here's what the way I tell people is accredited speaker is not for people who want to become a professional speaker. It's not going to show you, in preparing for it, you'll do the work to become a professional speaker, but it really is for professional speakers who know how to build a business. And the accredited speaker recognizes that ability, skill, commitment, discipline, and history and track record. So for me to get the accredited speaker designation it wasn't the end of the road. It wasn't like, check, got that done. It wasn't another feather in my cap. It was just like, okay, what's next? Let's just pick this up and just keep doing what I'm doing. And it's just been a great experience for those of you that saw me in person at the convention last August, when I delivered my final level presentation. Here's the challenge that I had. I do speak for an hour. My keynote is an hour long, give or take 10 minutes on either side, maybe 50 minutes at the least. I had 16 for accredited speaker. How do you condense, 3 points, 60 minutes down to 16? And quite frankly, I was like, I don't think I want to do that. I don't want to create a new speech because I'm never going to give that speech again. But I had to do something. So I lifted a chunk of my speech I lifted a chunk out of my keynote, fine-tuned it, tweaked it a bit to fit into the 16-minute time frame. And if you were there, I got very emotional towards the end because Toastmasters has changed I'll get emotional again. Toastmasters has changed my life. And I was so honored and privileged, and it was a holy moment for me to be standing there in front of so many people that I've loved and have worked with and have followed after and have mentored and had dinner with and laughed with and just, done fun things with. And here, it was a beautiful moment, and I started to cry. And everybody started to clap. And I said, stop clapping, I'm running out of time, because Toastmasters, we live and die by that clock, right? So I say that to say, not just to say, go watch me cry on video. That's a lesson that few speakers learn well, is how to use the clock, how to use the clock well for the benefit of the audience, not just because I need to edit my words as I go. It's a conversation on the platform. I talk, you're listening and thinking, and I need to honor that, but I still need to give you time to breathe and think while still filling up the time with good content and ending it, starting on time, ending on time. So World Championship and accredited speaker, the skill sets they overlap. They do not map on top of each other, not even close. And I was just privileged to be able to do both. Back to you, Mary.
The next time we go to the mall and we see a jewelry case and we walk over to it, we see these pearls and all the prices on it, we'll know the value of this presentation we've heard today. Yeah. Thank you, Maureen.
Yes, and we are going to go into
this. Yes, Dr. Sherri, I'm going to turn it back to you. You are a past district governor. You were an area winner in your district, area of the year, area director of the year, and you were also a Toastmaster of the year in your district.
True.
Plus, you took second. Oh, that's first before first place in the speech contest in District 31. Let's welcome you back to finish our panelist presentation today.
Thank you so much, Mary. I appreciate that. That was a nice introduction. I want to pivot to question and answers, so I'm sure there are members in the audience that would like to hear from our panelists. And if you could raise your virtual hands, folks, so that I can see where you're at, and we can go around, and it's about 1 to 2 table topic answers, please. So I would love to see who is interested in talking to our panelists today, because we have another portion of the meeting where our panelists are going to coach Harriet Tinka, who was a finalist last year, semi-finalist. So we want to make sure that we hear from our panelists and how they give feedback. And let's open it up to our Q&A session. Would you like to? Okay, I have Daniel, Toastmaster Daniel, please. Maybe I'll even add you into this group for a moment so that you can ask your question. So let's welcome Daniel. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for being here. It's really fun to listen to you. My question is, do you ever get nervous before speaking, and under what circumstances do you feel that nervousness now after all the experience you have?
I'll be happy to answer that one.
Yeah,
I get nervous. And it's not because I'm worried about what they're going to think about me. I'm worried about, it's usually I'm nervous because I haven't nourished myself well. It's so keyed into how long ago I had coffee and when was my last bit of protein. I know that sounds really kind of like, really, Maureen, is that your answer? Yes, it is my answer. I'm just so tuned into it. But I do still get nervous, and I get over it quickly by, I know my content cold. Hard, I mean, it's in me, it's part of me. I speak on one topic exclusively. It's what I'm hired for. It's overcoming imposter syndrome. I know it, live it, breathe it, eat it, sleep with it. It's who I am. So it's not that I don't know the content. It is, have I done enough pre-work with this client? Have I talked with enough people? Have I gotten to know their company, their organization? Do I know the extent of imposter syndrome in their organization? How can I, in their industry, show them how overcoming imposter syndrome will give them a better market share, more, less customer, greater customer satisfaction, little fewer people getting bored and leaving. So I'm nervous about the backstory history work. Have I done enough?
Excellent. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, let's ask Barack to come up to the virtual lectern.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Sherri. My question is for Maureen. Maureen, you mentioned that you speak to an audience and you need to help them solve problems and increase their performance, either the market or their bottom lines. I also speak on problem solving and innovation. Can you give me a couple of tips and resources, because I'm at that point of transitioning speaking for a fee?
I didn't mean to mislead you. I don't teach problem solving, like it sounds like what you do. I teach people to solve the one problem of imposter syndrome. So I've got five strategies, but I only present three because nobody's going to listen to five. I have three, and then my handout, their downloadable freebie that puts them on my mailing list, gives them the other, all five of them together. I focus on three, and so in terms of resources, do the research, Google search, ChatGPT, Perplexity, interviews, read extensively, read everything, find out what your specific topic is. And if it's problem solving, that's very general. What kind of problems? Problem solving for salespeople, problem solving for manufacturing, problem solving for customer service organizations. Find out what industry and what their hurt is, what their pain point is, and you fix their pain.
Thank you for that.
Excellent, thank you.
Yes, this question in the chat, it says, this is from Nancy Lott. As a division winner, should I work with a mentor before the district contest? Anyone?
It'd be helpful if you pinpoint one of the speakers to address it.
Yes, would you like to answer that, Dr. Dilip?
Yeah, and I say yes, absolutely. I have mentored people right from before the club contest starts to till they get to the world championship. Okay, there's always room for improvement. That's the biggest room in the house, right? The room for improvement. And you have to and look for mentors, people who can, not only who are willing to help you, but who can help you, who have something special to give you, and who believe in you. I think all the qualities a mentor should have is their belief in the person that they are mentoring. And that will carry through. So yes, look for mentors, get help, and look around your district, your area, your division, or beyond your district, someone who can help you.
Thank you.
Right?
Okay, Joe, would you like to answer a question from Toastmaster Jim?
Thank you. This could be for any of you, but since we've heard from two of them, maybe I'll make it for Joe. I'm curious about, as a professional speaker, if you're on the circuit, and I don't know, how often you speak, and what the variety of audiences is in as you give those speeches, but I'm curious about how much you tailor I'll call it your standard message for individual audiences.
That is a great question. I usually get 1 or 2 professional speeches a month, and it is from an eclectic group of people. I advocate for children. I believe children are the most misunderstood human beings on earth. So I spend a lot of time working with adults, teachers, parents, and conferences on how, and this is why the book Living in Harmony with Our Children comes about, how we can understand our children so it leads to compassion, which leads to wanting to help instead of giving up on them. So my audiences can be any grade, elementary school to high school children. It usually is educational conferences. Lately, I have been getting speaking engagements on wellness, communication skills, leadership, and of course, education. I make a point, and as a teacher, I did the same thing. I have a lesson plan book for the full year. I throw it away the next year and I make up a new one. And I do the exact same thing for the speeches that I deliver. I have routine stories that I can always connect and place. It's like a puzzle, trying to figure out where the pieces fit for the audience that I am in front of. So I tailor make my speeches to the audience. I just finished one. We have an organization here, Soccer New Brunswick, and I just finished working with the staff of Soccer New Brunswick. And then I had the opportunity that night to work with children at an awards banquet who were receiving awards. 2 different presentations. And I've been invited to that organization for the past 4 years. So they have experienced a lot of my different presentations. So the hardest thing is to come up with something different, something that they haven't heard, maybe similar stories. So to answer your question, yes, I try to tailor make my presentations, my keynotes, to whatever audience I'm in front of, which sometimes takes more research. Sometimes it takes me to talk to the organizers and get more information about what they want. So the great question, and I love that question. It's always challenging.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay.